back to another episode of Mind Over Masculinity, the podcast where we pull back the curtain on what it really means to be a man today, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. I'm your host Avik, and if you have ever felt like the gym is the only place you feel strong or the only place you don't, you are in the right place. So today's guest is someone who's not just moved iron, but moved the mountains. Benjamin Nevares. So welcome to the show, Benjamin.
Thank you for having me, Avik. I'm excited to be here today.
Lovely, lovely. So Benjamin, like before we start, I would quickly love to introduce you to all of our listeners. Dear listeners, Benjamin is a former Team USA powerlifting competitor, a published exercise scientist, a business owner, podcast host, and a true mental health warrior. So he's the founder of IE Health, host of the Ben Thinking podcast, and the owner of Las Vegas Venom in the Greed League. But what hits hardest isn't just his deadlift, it's his journey. From battling substance abuse to now owning three companies and living a sober international life, Ben embodies the transformation that real growth demands. So, fellas, get ready to talk strength, not just of the body, but of character. So, I'll not take much of your time, dear listeners. Let's dive into this with one and only Benjamin Nevares. So, welcome to the show, Benjamin.
Thank you again for having me. I'm motivated by, I think, the idea of what masculinity is, because I think that we have an interesting perspective of it. And so I'm listening to you kind of like go through my journey. It brings up some past memories that are formative for how I can currently see the world, and
Yeah,
how I view masculinity, and how I had a hard time with it growing up.
yeah, lovely. So, Ben, like, I mean, you have been to the Team USA, worked in the elite research labs, and now owning the multiple companies. But if we strip the titles, like, who was Ben when he first started lifting? But I mean, what were you really trying to build back then?
Ben was a a shy kid who was bullied and never felt like he belonged anywhere. And so Ben was looking for some place that he felt
Hmm,
he could find either community
hmm,
or just a place that he could grow to be
hmm,
someone that mattered, or someone that had some worth. I think I struggled with self-worth for a long time. Even after I started competing for the teams, I still, and to this day, I still struggle with understanding what my self-worth is, and kind of dissociating that from, just the dollar bills in the bank account or the amount of success. It's really finding it within myself. And so um, that young Ben was just looking for somewhere to be, I guess, almost express himself, I guess, like comfortably and also loudly.
That's amazing. And do you think that young men today are still trying to earn worth through the physical performance like that? And is that necessarily a bad thing also, if you can share?
I I worked with a lot of like kiddos growing
Mm,
like or like several years ago. I used to be the director of a kids camp, and so we had a thing called the Young Gentlemen's Camp, and these kiddos were rambunctious. I mean, they were
uh,
always getting after each other, hitting each other, yelling at each
mm,
other, calling each other names. And so I think it was all in good fun through some moderation,
mm,
right? Sometimes these kids would kind of go a little bit overboard. Maybe I understood maybe more what was going on at home, and so I could kind of navigate those situations a little bit better versus the kiddos who were just being kids and picking on one another to some degree. I think that being in the gym or being in sport can really help with understanding interpersonal skills. So long as we have some good coaching to kind of help move that interpersonal skill kind of go along. If I have a coach or an individual who's maybe a little bit more lax or maybe not paying attention,
Yeah.
then you have the potential for maybe an unhealthy environment being created. So I think that I had the opportunity to work with these kiddos, and I think that we were able to find a lot of honesty inside of the gym, which was, I think, one of the best parts. It's people that didn't let it like I didn't let my kiddos slack off. We if I said, if you're 2 minutes late to practice or whatever it is, then you owe me, two burpees or two laps. Right. And so ultimately what I'm trying to do is just create a sense of agency behind these individuals so that they take ownership of I need to be here on time.
Mm,
Um, for XYZ reason. So hopefully, like whenever they're 20, 30, 40 years old, they have that they've practiced that sense of agency within themselves, and they get to show up for themselves, and then ultimately be better humans because of it. So I think it's important. I think it's
mm,
massively important for kiddos or young men to be involved in the gym. Um, and finding the right mentorship is important, but at the very least, being inside of the gym or being in sport, I think really develops an individual for the long term.
exactly. I mean, it's really powerful to hear that strength training started as more than fitness and it was a survival. And for many of us, especially those who, from the rougher starts, the gym is often kind of first place we learn how to believe in ourselves, though. I mean, yeah,
That's right.
exactly.
Man, I couldn't said that. I mean, that's beautiful. I couldn't have said that any better. I mean, the way you summarize that is perfect. Yeah, it's the place where I finally felt like I could do something, and
Mm,
it really sparked that thing inside of me where
mm,
it wasn't just about the gym anymore. It wasn't just about escaping. It was about, okay, now how do I excel? Right. I reached maybe I was able to, if I look at the hierarchy, right, Maslow's
mm,
hierarchy of needs, I was able to cover all my base needs just because the gym promoted me to maybe sleep more and eat better and find community. And so I was able to build on these blocks and ultimately found some sort of self-actualization where I'm like, okay, now what's next? How do I
mm,
progress from here? And let me go do research and let me find some really good, mentors that I can learn how to excel, right? And so I think it forced me to learn how to do outreach and find good people and vet and try and fail. Like it was an amazing opportunity.
exactly. That's amazing, really. And if I have to say, like you have mentioned that no one was coming in to save you, and that you had to figure it out or die. That's really intense. So, what did that rock bottom moment teach you about the masculinity?
Oh, that's a good one. So my rock bottom moment was, um, I was still living in Texas and I I was struggling with abuse at that time, and I remember being in bed and my heart rate was at 180 beats a minute. I hadn't slept for probably 3 days, and I was really, really struggling where I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna, come out of this. I don't know if that I'm gonna live. Um, so I started making calls, and I was very fearful of what was to come next. I felt like I was on that edge of not coming back, and so um, I remember walking outside, and all of a sudden there's this like big gust of cold air that ends up dropping my heart rate pretty significantly, and I calmed down and I felt better. And so I walked inside, and I thought like, what an unfortunate end to the story if this was my end, right? I have all these dreams, I have all these desires, and I am unable to complete them because I can't show up for myself today in these moments and just stop. So at that at that moment it was the last day that I abused any recreational drug, and it was an amazing day. It was a hard day. It's still kind of, still emotional for me. It's a hard time. Um, but it prompted me to really be honest with myself and be honest with the people around me, and
Mm,
I think that ultimately helped me become a better human being because
mm,
honesty is I know it's like the oldest saying that we always hear, like,
mm,
honesty is the best policy. Um,
mm.
but it really is, man, like, just not just outward honesty, right? It's the inward honesty that allows me to be outwardly honest. So I had to really understand where I was, and take ownership of that. No one else is gonna be there. No one else noticed, right? Like, maybe people noticed, but I was the person at the end of the day who had to go to sleep with that. And so I had to take
Mm.
ownership of that fact.
Exactly. Love that. Love that. And how has your definition of being a man changed now that you are not just surviving, but building?
I think that it went from being this, like,
Mm,
drinking cool guy who goes to the gym and maybe is like, talking about the women that he's been with and trying to hook up and like living that idea of like maybe like a rap star or something like that, right? Like going out, doing drugs, drinking with your buddies. Like I perceive that to be a man. Uh, and I realize really what it is being honest. It's
okay.
it's limiting my options, really, right? I don't wanna have so many options that I can do anything in the world. I wanna really understand what I want and then really hone in on those couple things that are gonna allow me to be successful. And so, now we have several companies and all of them are intentional. So being intentional with how I move is important. Um, a big part of my growth was having a therapist who was a male, and up to that point, I didn't necessarily have the best relationship with a lot of men. That I didn't have the best time, especially during college, and like I had a couple friends, I had dude friends, but I didn't have necessarily like a significant role model that I wanted to communicate with that could help me, especially of the older adult. And so I found a therapist. I found a therapist who was a male, and practiced talking openly and emotionally to another man. And that individual, I think, really helped me practice that muscle, or exercise that muscle, and I became more comfortable and more honest and felt better whenever I was outside in the world
Mm,
talking with other dudes, and that really helped me significantly.
mm, exactly. Understood. And that shift, like from grit to the growth, it's not so easy, especially when most of us are told that don't feel, just fix it. It's very easy to say, but feeling is part of fixing.
Yeah, I remember I was talking. I've been in therapy for about 10 years now, and one of my therapists, she was a lady, and she called me out on it one day where we were talking about our what was going on, our emotions, and then she was like, whatever I was saying, I kind of like cut off the emotion, and she was like, no, 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 you see that? Like, stick with that emotion, like feel it,
Mm,
understand it, and then be able to conceptualize it or to put words to it. So we went back to know like the five basic emotions of humans, and I'm gonna try to off the top of my head try to give them to you. So sadness, anger, surprise, disgust, and um, I think it's joy or happiness. And those understanding that there's there's almost like a science behind emotions and then how to understand them and label them and then create kind of a framework around them. So whenever I'm feeling anger, how do I react in this situation and what can I do in a way that I think harnesses that anger in a way that's beneficial for me? Because it's a normal emotion. I just have to understand it and not get overwhelmed by it, but see it, recognize it, and then decide what to do with it. I can feel it, understand it, and then rather than trying to run away from it because I don't know what to do with myself during that moment, I look at it and say, "Ah, I'm feeling anger. Okay. Why am I feeling this anger? Is it justified or am I having a trigger, right? Or like is it understandable for this moment? And it almost always yes, right? But really understanding why. And so whenever you're communicating with somebody else, maybe they do something that makes you angry and you don't really realize it in the moment. Um, but you can kind of come back and be like, this is the way that they phrased it or the way they asked me to do this thing or whatever it may be, that's what made me angry. So the next time you have that conversation, you're like, "Hey, I really didn't like the way you said it like this. It may be moving forward, maybe we can discuss it like this." Um, and that's important for us as especially as managers or owners or bosses to be able to have that kind of agency where I can talk with somebody and then instead of having an employee who I get frustrated with, I can say, "Hey, these are the things I didn't like. This is why. This is how it made me feel. Maybe you weren't intending to do that, but maybe we can create a kind of a way for us to both be cohesive here and ultimately have better communication moving forward."
Mm, exactly. Perfect. Perfect. And also, like, some say that gym culture can amplify the toxic masculinity, obsession with the appearance, and emotional suppression. So, how do we reclaim that space for healing? What do you say?
That's a really good point.
Mhm.
People do say that a lot. And I think from the outside, if you look into it, it looks very broy, right? It looks very like toxic masculinity kind of thing.
Mm,
And it definitely can be. Don't get me wrong. I've definitely met people that are kind of that way in the gym. But I would say more often than not, most of the people, especially those high level individuals that are taking it seriously, are probably some of the most introspective individuals that I've ever met in my entire life. Some of them are the most intelligent people I've ever worked with. Competing for Team USA, you're around all these individuals who are the best in the sport all around the world. And these individuals are engineers, they're scientists, they are social workers. I mean, just wholesome, hardworking human beings that look at themselves and take themselves seriously
mm,
and are committed to something that's almost bigger than themselves. Even though I know it's like, yes, you're on the stage and you're the individual on the stage at the end of the day. It's almost something bigger than you. You stand for something. You're competing for Team USA. You're competing for Team Singapore or Team Malaysia, right? Like you have something else that is ultimately carrying you that direction. And so I think that being in the gym is a moment for introspection. What can I get better at? And am I taking myself seriously outside of the gym? Right? It's a moment to reflect. And so I think maybe if we're struggling with that toxic masculinity or recognizing that within ourselves, maybe, taking a journal and writing our stuff down as a practice, like this is what I did today, this is how it made me feel, because it is very feelings based, right? Like I felt like that set was hard. Well, why was it hard? Well, maybe I didn't sleep well last night, or maybe my nutrition was off. Okay, well, like it gives me data to go off of. And if I really want to get better, I want to feel good in the gym, then I correct those things. If I'm okay being average and or even less than average, and I don't want to work on those things and not hit my fullest potential, then fine, don't. But it's an opportunity for you to grow. So use it, right? That's what we're there for.
exactly. Wow. I mean, It's very tricky. I mean, lifting weights can save the lives, but it can become a kind of prison also, because the key is why we are doing it, and we are building strength or hiding the weakness. So this
That's
is
right.
also something. Yeah, yeah,
I
lovely.
definitely see that.
Yeah. So, also let's talk about sobriety. I mean, being sober in high performance spaces is very, very rare thing. I mean, what's the one thing people misunderstood or misunderstand about being a sober man in this kind of environments? If you can share anything.
Yeah. I would say
Mm,
you just don't have to. And that's a weird idea,
mm,
especially if we're like, let's say I go to events regularly, right? Um, Networking events, or when I was in real estate, that we'd have a lot of like open houses or showings and meetings or charity events. And
mm,
almost every single event was flooded with
mm,
alcohol. Everybody's drinking. The people in construction and real estate know how to drink. That's for sure. Um, they know how to party. There's a counter to the amount of stress that we go through day to day, and it is not an easy job. It's very stressful, and so people kind of medicate with the opposite, which is going to be alcohol, right? So I realize it. They're intense in their job, and so they're intense in their play. But the reality is that you don't have to partake, and that's so weird because it feels like there's so much pressure and like you kind of have to. And especially if I'm going to these events, I like this is kind of the thing that everybody does, and you want to be included. Um, I think we just lost Avik for just a moment. So I appreciate you guys being here. And to kind of continue on with that, it's more of an opportunity for us to really practice discipline. And that can be tough. It really can be. But again, it's an opportunity for us to try to be better. And we're going to fail. I mean, there's plenty of times where I've definitely given in to the consumption. Like, I get it. But it is just a part of the process and getting better at it and really making an effort to actually complete the whole sobriety idea. And it's not easy by any means. I mean, it's probably like I say running a business is probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Being
mm,
being sober in these kind of environments is either right alongside of it, uh yeah, probably right alongside of it. It is not easy because it's so easy to give in. It's so easy to give in because it feels good, it's fun, you're with your people, blah 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 blah. But it's tough. It is tough. It's worth it.
exactly. That's lovely. Amazing. Amazing. Uh, I mean, what a great conversation. And also, if someone listening has ambition but no guidance, what's their next move should be? I mean, what you suggest?
I can only suggest what I did. And being in this
Mm,
position, I have some experience, right?
mm,
And so the thing that I did was I found help. And
mm,
that's either going to be it's multiple avenues.
mm,
It can't just be one thing because if that one
mm,
thing leaves, then you're less likely to commit, right? And so um I have a
yeah.
board where I write all my stuff down, make sure my goals are in line with my actions are in line with my goals. Um or my values, and
Mhm,
making sure I even understand my values. That's somewhere we can start. But that's a
mhm,
tool. And so we add in additional tools like community. Where am I hanging out? How am I spending my time? Are these
mm,
other individuals sober? Are they drinkers? Or are they hard workers? Are they ambitious? Or are they not? And then I get to choose, do I want to continue to be associated with that? Because that's ultimately going to influence how I choose my time. And then my help was a therapist, and then I had a lot of mentors along the way. So I think something that I had the opportunity to do is to kind of be that mentor for some people. And we use the gym as an avenue for that. So it can be a coach, it can be a teacher, it can be your spouse, it can be or your significant other, it can be a therapist. I know there's life coaches out there. There's a lot of opportunities and tools for you to use. Just like in the gym, we have the options to do like bodybuilding or powerlifting or weightlifting or CrossFit or calisthenics, right? We have so many different options to choose our avenue. And same thing in life, we just have to ultimately find the thing that's gonna keep us going the best. And so it doesn't matter if you're doing weightlifting or powerlifting. What matters is that you're in the gym and you find something that you really truly enjoy. And for me, that happened to be powerlifting. And what keeps me going are going to be just responsibilities. And so that's gonna be my significant other, my animals, my employees or my
Mhm.
contractors. Like, I built a life that doesn't allow me to fail. And so, yeah, it's important. And I have my own coach. Like, I've hired coaches for myself in the past, and so I think it's important.
Mm, exactly. Amazing. Lovely. And Ben, thank you so for your strength and, but more importantly, for your honesty. And you just build muscle, you have built a life, a sober, disciplined, and the intentional life. So, for everyone who's listening, or maybe will be listening, whether you are in a garage, gym in Texas, or stuck in a job that you hate, or you are not stuck, you are starting, just like Ben did. So, ask yourself, what's your version of that first email, that first rep, and that one decision that says, I'm ready to figure this out? So, thank you so much for joining everyone today. And I'll put all the links into the show notes so that you can reach out to Ben very easily. And this is your host, Avik, signing off from Mind Over Masculinity. Until next, be strong and keep building.